What is your beef with this? That we should omit the fact that Trump did a thing factually?
No, my beef with this is that we're making assumptions about a report because you want it to be a story today.
If they had made up that fact, I could understand being upset about it. But it's just a thing that actually happened in the world.
Abby Phillip went up against two MAGA commentators, two MAGA pundits in Batya Ungar-Sargon and Kristen Davison on her CNN show over yet another January 6th insurrectionist who was pardoned by Donald Trump committing a dangerous crime. We're going to take a look at clips from this panel on Abby Phillip's CNN show, which also included Anna Navarro and Ashley Allison. I will also share my thoughts on what Abby Phillip and the rest had to say. Let's get into this one together.
Tonight, the Justice Department is suspending 2 prosecutors for accurately describing January 6th as a, quote, mob of rioters. Carlos Valdivia and Samuel White were suspended just hours after submitting the sentencing request for a man who was pardoned by Donald Trump back in January. Taylor Taranto is facing gun charges after he was detained near Barack Obama's home 2 years ago. He said on a live stream that he had a detonator and was searching for underground tunnels that led inside the Obama family home. 2 guns, hundreds of rounds of ammunition, and materials to make explosives were also found inside of his van. The original prosecutors in that case sought a sentence of 27 months, but their memo submitted yesterday was missing from the court docket as of this afternoon. Now tonight, you can see that the names of the prosecutors who posted this revised sentencing memo are different. And noticeably missing from the new memo is that first paragraph, that one on the left, referencing Taranto's involvement in the Capitol attack. In fact, all references of January 6th are missing now from this document. This is actually honestly hard to believe. Why?
Did they say why they were fired? I don't think they said we fired them because we fired them because of the January 6th stuff. I think that's
what the reporting says.
But I think the reporter wrote a book on January 6th. They're probably trying to keep it going.
No, I mean, every news outlet at this point has confirmed it.
Yeah.
But they took them off the case. They put on new prosecutors. They resubmitted the memo, and they took out the paragraph about January 6th.
So I think there was a part in there where they were explicit, referring to President Trump, almost blaming him for the violence of January 6th in their original filing. I believe that was partly in there. And so if they are going to, these are individuals who, there's plenty of reasons to put this guy away. 27 counts. They made it political for a reason, to make a statement. No one can disagree that it was a mob riot of a day. Everyone here agrees with that. It was a terrible, dark day.
So the part let me just read what part you're referring to. Here's what it says. The next day, on June 29th, 2023, then former President Donald Trump published on a social media platform the purported address of former President Barack Obama. Taranto reposted the address on the same platform and thereafter started live streaming from his van on his YouTube channel. Taranto broadcast footage of himself as he drove through the Calorama neighborhood in Washington, et cetera, et cetera. The new text says, the next day, on June 29th, 2023, Taranto broadcast footage of himself as he drove through the Calorama neighborhood in Washington, D.C. So the earlier text is just a recitation of facts. It happens to mention Donald Trump. Yeah, because the address that he used in order to go and stalk the Obamas was posted by Trump.
He was live.
It is relevant.
But is it a fireable offense? Okay, let's say you put a paragraph in. Maybe it's bad wording.
We don't know. We're making big assumptions here on why they were fired.
Well,
I don't think they're big assumptions.
I think it's more like common sense.
Yeah, it's like just call it what it is.
Well, it's kind of like common sense for me to think they included Trump in their filing because they were trying to make a political point.
Why would they be trying to make a political point when Trump was the person who put the address on the platform?
What does that have to do?
Taranto
Taranto
reposted the address on the same platform, and then after that, he started a live stream from his van, broadcasting footage of him.
Was the reposting what he's being charged with? Because he reposted it. So what relevance does
Think of the insanity of the moment that we are living through right now with the propaganda and gaslighting that are just unprecedented. I don't know if any of us have lived through. I mean, I guess if you're old enough that you were around during the McCarthy era, maybe you lived through some of this stuff, but the level of gaslighting and propaganda that we get from the Trump administration, and then all of these Trump lackeys and sycophants that go on Abby Phillip show every night, like Kristen Davison here. Kristen Davison is whining about, why are you making this political, when Donald Trump, the now president of the United States, posted the address of the former president of the United States when a bunch of people were trying to overthrow the government at the behest of that former president of the United States. And the guy, Donald Trump, who shared the former president's address is now the president. Think of the insanity of that. Think just anybody else that's ever been elected president before or ran for president, if they had done just that one thing that Donald Trump did, they would have been disqualified, and that would have been it. You know, we've had people have to drop out of the presidential race because of the haircut they had. And, you know, Donald Trump has done a million things at this point that would have disqualified anybody, and he posts Barack Obama's address, and then a crazy lunatic person that Donald Trump, pardoned, has now gone after Barack Obama. And you have these MAGA people on Abby Phillip show defending it and saying, why are you making this political? I mean, when you watch the news now, do you feel like you're losing your mind?
Does it have? Would we say he Googled it? Would
It's
we
a
have
fact
included
pattern.
it?
When you
Okay,
when
so
you do
it's
it-
a fact pattern.
Actually, if he had Googled it, it was
But did they
probably
ask?
relevant.
Did they check? We don't know. We're making
Well, we know that
assumptions.
he
But Kristen, I'm
reposted.
confused. What is your beef with this? That we should omit the fact that Trump did a thing factually?
No, my
if
beef
he
with
had-
this is that
if they
we're
had
making
made-
assumptions about a
But if
report
they had
because you want it
made
to be a
up that
story today.
fact, if they had made up that fact, I could understand being upset about it. But it's just a thing that actually happened in the world.
And let me tell you something, as somebody who has been the recipient of Trump attack tweets. Trump has attacked me by tweet. And when Trump...
Me too.
When Trump, well, join the club. When Trump posts about you, it's like the gates of hell open up and every little demon goes through them and comes out against you and comes out and attacks you. And so I do think this is relevant. Look, the bigger point here is that Trump and his administration, all his followers and minions, or many of his followers and minions, want to erase January 6th, want to convince us that what we saw with our own eyes is not what we saw with our own eyes. They want to convince us that it wasn't a violent riot. They want to convince us that it was sightseeing at the Capitol, and all sorts of descriptions that some Republicans have used to describe that day. They don't want to admit that it was what Mike Pence knows it was.
And for the purposes of sentencing, Batia, I mean, it seems logical that if you're a prosecutor and you're trying to argue to a judge, this guy is somebody who shouldn't be out on the street. He's dangerous. Wouldn't it be relevant to include the other instance in which he was engaged in violent acts? But I ask that, but also at the same time, the fact that Trump pardoned him does make it so that it is harder to include that information. And is that right in your mind?
I read 4 articles. They all said, the 4 that I read from mainstream media said, we don't know why they were fired. But if they were fired for omitting that paragraph, that is bad. That's not good. So I'm not 100% sure that's true, but I understand why it seems like that's probably true. And if that is true, that's bad. Yeah, I think they shouldn't have been fired.
I mean, look, the pardons are sort of the original sin here in a lot of these cases. It's not the first time that we've seen these former January 6th, now pardoned individuals going out there and committing acts of violence. And that is something that we have to now live with as a country, because these were blanket pardons. They were just given a clean slate.
Abby, not accepting the election results and the loss was the original sin. Then as a result of that, instigating January 6th was a further sin. January 6th itself was a furtherance of the sin. The pardon was the cherry on top.
Yeah. Well, I think there are a lot of Republicans who don't agree with the pardons. I think, but it wasn't a surprise. I mean, Trump literally campaigned on it. Everyone knew it was coming. No one should be surprised. There are a lot of people who don't agree that those people should be pardoned. I don't think they should have been pardoned. A lot of people don't. But my issue here is that this person should be in jail for a number of reasons, for hurting police officers, for, threatening. There's so many reasons why this person needs to be put away. My problem here is that including a political point of view, I don't know if they should have been fired or not. I don't know why they were fired, as we just said, but tainting it with politics to me
it wasn't a
ruins
point
the
of view.
overall
Let me ask you a
That's
question.
I'm assuming that, just like we're assuming
Can I
this.
ask
No, but
you a
I mean, to
question?
me, it tells me
Do
that
you
this
think-
guy is so unstable that at seeing a post by Trump, he gets triggered to the point
But
where he's being charged.
but that's not all. Look, this part about January 6th being a mob that was engaged in violence is also
Which it was.
omitted. Okay, but that was also omitted from the documents, from the memo. Should that have been omitted? Should that be relevant information for the judge to see?
Well, I think if it is tied to directly his violent acts, then yes, of course. That's not. I don't think that's what we're fighting about here. What we're arguing about.
I mean, first of all, we're not fighting. But second of all, what I'm asking you is, if you take the firings out of it for a second, they resubmitted this memo and they took out the parts of that document that would have offended President Trump because he doesn't like it called a mob. He doesn't think January 6th was wrong. That's why he pardoned all these individuals. Is it okay in your mind for that reason, because Trump doesn't like it, it comes out of the document and then it's not part of the record as they're trying to put this very dangerous person behind bars?
If that's the reason they give for omitting it, then
What
of
other
course
reason?
that's
What other reason is there?
So here's the thing: you're making these assumptions, just like how I'm assuming that those.
I know, but what other? I mean,
Why else would you
what
take it
plausible
out?
other reason is there?
Have you asked, as a news organization, asked why they've been
The
omitted?
justice, they
I wonder what kind of answer they would get if a news organization asks, let's say Caroline Levitt, she's going to give some kind of snarky answer and say, your mom, right? This is not a normal administration that is actually going to respond with truthful or semi-truthful answers. And when Kristen Davidson talks about, Republicans were against the pardons, she's one of the only ones that I've ever heard say that. They all twist themselves into the logic pretzels of defending the January 6th people and saying it was just a tour and all that. Like Anna Navarro said, that's another thing where they're gaslighting everybody on, it was just a tour, it was peaceful, blah, 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 blah. And usually the immediate response is, what about Black Lives Matter? So I guess good on Kristen Davidson for at least not doing the whataboutism, but she's still molding herself a little mini logic pretzel here to say, well, why would this have happened? Why are they omitting this? When, like Abby Phillip is saying, it seems pretty obvious. But again, this is where we are, where we have a president, and I've said this over and over and over on my videos, the pardoning thing has to be reined in. I don't care if it's Biden, I don't care if it's Trump, I don't care if it's some future president. Pardons should not be for people who have committed actual crimes, people who are the president's friends or donors or political allies or family members. These should be for people who were truthfully, wrongfully imprisoned, somebody who goes to prison for a crime that somebody else committed. That's what pardon should be for. But let me know what you think about all this. Do you agree with what Abby Phillip is saying about this issue here and agree with Anna Navarro? Or are you on the side with the MAGA types in Kristen Davidson and Batia Unger-Sargon, where this is just no big deal and this is just the media being political? Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. I am Chris on Culture, and I will see you in the next video.